Is this pretty clear that President Putin was behind this, that this was revenge?
That's what most Russians seem to assume, and it certainly has that neatness about it. And it may be, and in that respect, Putin is stronger because of it at the moment. But in the longer term, this increases that sense of chaos, I think, at the top of the whole decision-making structure. And remember, Wagner were not separate. They were quite close to the GRU, the military intelligence. They're quite close to the airborne force of the VDV, because a lot of them were ex-airborne troops, the professionals in Wagner. So I think it also emphasises the splits within the Russian command structure, not just in the Kremlin, but right down through the military machinery. So I suspect that this will sort of reverberate, and the Wagner group and Prigozhin himself were pretty popular in Russia because he told a certain truth, he had a way of talking, he was a very good presenter, very informal, very direct, and a lot of Russians, ordinary Russians, sort of liked him and thought he told the truth.
Dominic, I mean, you know, Michael pointing out that some Russians liked him. I mean, not a likeable character. This was a man who was behind countless atrocities. Who was he?
Yeah, I mean, if Vladimir Putin is a kind of Bond villain, then Prigozhin was the kind of consummate Bond villain's henchman. He began life as a common criminal. He managed to get into the Kremlin and work there as a caterer and sort of, I think, won over Putin's support and patronage. Putin saw him as a man who was very loyal, very resourceful and very brutally violent. And he was able to do Putin's dirty work with this army of mercenaries, the Wagner group, looting, plundering and destabilising states across Africa in return for lucrative diamond and mineral concessions. He's also behind the meddling in the American elections, that's a version of American democracy. But he was useful to Putin in Ukraine because the Wagners were amongst the most effective fighters. They really pulled off one of the only successes the Russians have had in Ukraine, the seizure and capture of Bakhmut. He was almost psychopathic. His preferred form of execution was placing the head of a live victim on a cinder block and smashing it with a sledgehammer. But he did have, as Michael was saying, a kind of common touch. And in the ranting we saw before that coup, he was articulating what I think a lot of Russian soldiers believed, that they were sent to war on a lie. They've not been well armed. They've not been well trained. And therefore, I think the difficulty for Putin is now he's been got rid of. I think there will be lingering loyalty for Prigozhin. It certainly makes the leadership still look weak. And the question is how much loyalty remains and how much damage that will do ultimately to the man who was his master and the man who created him, and it seems ultimately destroyed his own creature.
OK, Dominic and Michael, thank you both for now.